Under the overpass, I was telling fortunes when a middle-aged man walked past. His forehead was full, yet a dark aura emanated from between his eyebrows. I quickly stopped him. "Sir, it seems you're headed for a rough patch." He waved me off dismissively. "Con artist, don't spout nonsense." The next second, he stepped into a puddle, slipped, and fractured his tailbone. I crossed my arms and smirked. Oh my, this con artist here was just spouting nonsense, wasn't I? My name is Xue Qiao. My temple burned down, and my master sent me down the mountain to earn money. I'm not particularly good at subduing demons or guiding spirits, only barely managing to keep myself alive. However, my sixth sense is incredibly accurate. I'm top-notch at divination, bazi readings, and fengshui. I once taught my junior sister a simple method of divination. She used it during an exam, got caught red-handed by the proctor, and was even secretly photographed and shared in our group chat, where we all had a good laugh. Today, after a whole day, I'd only earned a little over 100 yuan. Just as I was about to pack up and head back to my rented room, a middle-aged man approached. Between his eyebrows, a thick mass of dark energy swirled like an unresolvable knot. I stared at his face, finding it a bit strange. His forehead was full, his chin square, the face of someone destined for great wealth and nobility. Such a dense, dark aura shouldn't appear on him. Could his ancestral grave have been disturbed? I raised an eyebrow. Not bad, there's trouble brewing. As he was about to walk past me, I called out, "Sir, please stop." He frowned, glanced at me, but said nothing. I quickly added, "Sir, you might be facing a great misfortune very soon." He waved his hand, annoyed. "Con artist, don't spout nonsense." I raised an eyebrow. "Nonsense, you say? Fine then. Just don't come begging me for help when the time comes." I was about to say more when I saw him trip over nothing, or rather, over a squat, invisible specter passing by and fall heavily to the ground. I stood by, arms crossed, mentally calculating. Excellent, he's fractured his tailbone. Oh my, this con artist. Here was just spouting nonsense, wasn't I? Perhaps my sarcastic tone was too obvious. The man angrily tried to get up and hit me, but the pain in his tailbone was too severe and he couldn't budge. Seeing this, I pulled out a crumpled business card from my pocket. "Sir, a preliminary calculation tells me you've likely fractured your tailbone. Furthermore, your home life hasn't been peaceful lately. If you trust me, give me a call. I'm always available." With that, I ignored his pained expression, shoved the card into his breast pocket, and left. Sometimes, changing one's fate is a matter of destiny. If he's fated to meet me, he'll seek me out naturally. Less than an hour after I returned to my rented room, my phone rang. I glanced at the unfamiliar number, a smile playing on my lips. I answered. "Hello, Master, you were right, I really did fracture my tailbone. His asterisk, it hurts so much. And your home life lately, has it been peaceful?" The other side hesitated for a moment, then said, "It truly hasn't been peaceful. Master, how much do you know?" Was he testing my abilities? I glanced at the turtle shell beside me. "All right, I'll divine a hexagram for him. Consider it opening the path to money." I pictured his face and said, "How about I divine a hexagram for you right now?" He quickly agreed. I composed myself, then lit incense and asked him for his full name, Jiang Ming, and his birth details. Born in 73, April, 4 p.m. I mentally calculated his bazi. Gui Chu, Jiwei Jiachen, Wu Shen. A bazi reading indicates that this person will face many hardships in the first half of his life, but enjoy blessings in the latter half. He's already middle-aged, which should be his time of prosperity, but it seems that's not the case. I frowned. "Did you experience many difficulties in the first half of your life?" He sighed, a clear admission. Knowing this, I picked up the turtle shell, clapped my hands together, placed it in my palms, and calmly thought about the question I was divining, then tossed the ancient coins inside the shell. Canovergen, this hexagram is Water Mountain Giant, an ominous hexagram. I raised an eyebrow. "Is your family in the aquatic trade?" The other side quickly confirmed, "Yes." "Then I assume many of your aquatic products have died, haven't they?" I hit the nail on the head. The other side fell silent, then after a long pause he said, "Master, I'm currently hospitalized at Anmin Hospital. Could you come find me? It's embarrassing to ask. I should be coming to pay my respects to you." His tone no longer held the initial contempt, it was even respectful. I initially wanted to put on airs, but my bank balance reminded me that such hollow pride doesn't put food on the table. That evening, I rented a public bicycle and pedaled diligently to the hospital. Following the address Jiang Ming gave me, I found his ward. He must be quite wealthy. a luxury private room. Looks like I can make a decent sum here, I thought to myself as I entered the room. As soon as I stepped in, I saw him lying face down on the bed, groaning in pain. That posture was certainly conspicuous. I clicked my tongue and shook my head. I remember the person who didn't heed my advice before, who was terrified by a ghost and fled for their life. This person didn't heed my advice and was tripped by a dwarf ghost, taking a magnificent fall. Truly tragic. Perhaps my dismissive sigh was too loud. Jiang Ming laboriously lifted his head and looked back. "Master, you've arrived. Please sit." He struggled to raise a hand, pointing to the chair beside him. I grunted and plopped down. "Tell me what happened." Jiang Ming sighed. "Lately, I don't know what's going on in my family. First, my daughter fell and broke her leg during PE at school. Then my wife burned herself while cooking at home. Even our dog was cheated on by its mate. I originally thought it was just a coincidence, but yesterday, in just one night, almost all our aquatic products died, and the rest are barely clinging to life. I initially thought someone had poisoned them, but the surveillance cameras showed nothing." He finished with another sigh. "I'm a non-believer in ghosts and spirits, so when Master spoke of ill omens, my tone wasn't good. I hope you'll forgive me." Outwardly, I waved my hand. "It's fine, I don't mind." Internally, I thought, let's see if I don't squeeze a large sum out of him. He was about to say something else, but I cut him off. "No need to say more, I know everything." Combining what he said with the divination I performed, I already had an answer. If this person was originally destined for great wealth and nobility, and if he hasn't had his fate altered by others, yet such unbefitting events are occurring, then it's likely an issue with his ancestral grave or the fengshui of his home. If it's the latter, changing the direction of the door or redesigning the interior would suffice. But if it's the ancestral grave, that's truly not easy to resolve. However, looking at his facial features, his field and mansion palace showed no problems. I had a plan in mind. I opened my mouth and said, "Your ancestral grave has probably been dug up." "Jiang Ming," I quickly corrected myself. "Your family's dragon's vein, referring to geomantic energy, has probably been severed." Jiang Ming's face immediately changed. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number. "Hello, damn it, my ancestor's grave has been dug up. Send someone to check it immediately." I stepped forward to stop him. "It's not necessarily all due to the ancestral grave. I need to go see it in person." Jiang Ming immediately told the person on the other end, No, you useless bastard, you don't need to go check. Let my daughter and the master go in person." The other side wanted to say something else, but Jiang Ming slammed the phone down and turned to me. "Master," his tone was sincere. Such a rapid change of expression, I could only say, impressive. "I've fractured a bone, so I'll need at least 10 days to half a month to recover. How about my daughter, Jiang Nian, accompanies you?" I looked at his contorted posture and nodded. With a fractured tailbone, he couldn't stand or sit, only lie face down. I didn't want him accompanying me to the grave site, lying face down in a wheelchair. It would be too embarrassing. Afterward, I pulled out my phone and checked the almanac. Tomorrow was auspicious for groundbreaking. Tomorrow it is then. A good day. Jiang Ming agreed, arranging for me to meet his daughter at the hospital entrance tomorrow morning. Early the next morning, I met Jiang Nian at the hospital. She was also a straightforward person, perhaps because she had just broken her leg, she was using crutches. "Master, my dad said some bastard dug up our ancestor's grave, is that right?" Her tone was indeed a chip off the old block, worthy of being father and daughter. I explained, "Not necessarily, we need to see first." She nodded. "All right then, I'll take you." As she spoke, she walked towards a car. "I'll drive you." I was a bit surprised. "Your leg?" She flung her crutches aside dramatically. "My leg works perfectly fine." Then I watched dumbfounded as she tossed her crutches, landed with a thud, then cursed loudly as she struggled to get back up. I sighed, picked up the car keys that had fallen to the ground, and helped her up. "Never mind, I'll drive." She still tried to snatch the keys, but I had already opened the car door and sat in the driver's seat. Helpless, she asked me, "Whose grave do you want to visit?" "Your grandfather's grave." Following the address she provided, I turned into a mountainous forest via the GPS. Although the land was in the mountains, the terrain was flat, surrounded by mountains on all sides, but the northern peak was higher than the others. This was a classic, four-sided pilgrimage, type of yin residence, burial ground. Choosing an ancestral grave here would greatly prosper the descendants. Moreover, there were no signs of disturbance around the grave, but Jiang Ming's features didn't align with this. Could there be another reason? I walked a few steps around the grave. Several enchanting red flowers caught my attention. They were entirely red, only flowers, no leaves, the legendary Lycoris radiata, said to bloom on the banks of the Sanzu River in the underworld. This type of flower also exists in real life, its scientific name being Lycoris radiata, but the important thing was that it wasn't the season for them to bloom. I bent down and touched the soil next to the grave. I felt a chill penetrate my body through my fingertips. Then, looking at the old man's name on the tombstone, I pulled out 3 Qianlong Tongbao coins and immediately divined a hexagram. 3 yin faces, great misfortune. But the feng shui here was not a place for nourishing corpses. Why was this happening? Oh no, I had a bad premonition. This grave had probably been tampered with. The corpse inside was likely about to turn into a zombie. I quickly told Jiang Ming, "Call your father right now and ask him if he can exhume the grave." She nodded and quickly dialed. I continued to examine the grave. The soil was loose and damp. I picked up some earth and brought it to my nose. A fishy, earthy smell filled my nostrils, along with the distinct stench of a corpse. Finally, my tongue lightly touched the soil. Sour. Fortunately, the sour taste indicated that the corpse had not yet fully zombified. If it were bitter, it would mean the corpse had already broken through the coffin and fully zombified, its aura having seeped into the earth. On the other side, Jiang Ming had finished her call with Jiang Ming. She looked at me with some difficulty. My father said that he spent a lot of money to have a very famous feng shui master choose this spot. Exhuming the coffin is possible, but if there's no problem with the grave master, you'll have to compensate him. I chuckled. Forget it then. In that case, I'll invite another, more skilled person. It wasn't that I was afraid of compensation if there truly was no problem, but this attitude was truly infuriating. While it was true I initiated contact by giving him my business card, he was the one who called me, begging for help. Now, at the slightest disagreement, he demands compensation if there's no problem. Does he think he's buying vegetables? Aren't feng shui problems resolved by gradually eliminating possibilities? I turned to leave when Jiang Ming behind me continued, but my father said if it is a grave problem and you can solve it, he'll give you 500,000 yuan, plus an extra 100,000 yuan for your hard work. My foot, which had already stepped out, immediately retracted. Little sister, Jiang Ming responded. Next time, get straight to the point when you talk. Damn it, I almost missed out on 600,000 yuan. She chuckled innocently. So, master, what's the problem? I didn't dare tell her directly that her grandfather was about to turn into a zombie, so I spoke euphemistically. Your grandfather's hair has grown long, she blinked. My grandfather's hair? Is he about to come back to life? I was a bit speechless. Are you dense? I took out talismans and pasted them around the grave, then instructed Jiang Ming, quickly contact someone to set up a tent here. Don't let the moonlight shine on the grave tonight. She acknowledged and immediately went to work. From my chest, I took out another talisman. This talisman was not simple, it was written with pure yang blood. I had expended a lot of effort to obtain the blood for this talisman. I held the talisman tightly in one hand, and with the other I cast a hexagram with 3 Qianlong Tongbao coins, 2 yang, 1 yin. Neither good nor bad, likely a success. Thinking so, I pasted the talisman directly in the center of the grave, then chanted the rebirth mantra, quietly waiting for Jiang Ming to call people over. She worked very quickly. In less than 15 minutes, 4 tall, burly men arrived. They held black sun umbrellas, planted them at the 4 corners of the grave, and secured them. Very quickly, the entire yin residence was covered. I called Jiang Ming over. That's enough. Tomorrow, find a few people born in the year of the rooster, dog, pig, and monkey, 3 people for each zodiac, a total of 12 people. They must be young men, not older than 55. They'll help exhume the coffin then. Jiang Ming continuously agreed. I looked up at the weather, subconsciously using the little Liu Ren method to divine a hexagram. Red mouth, emptiness, emptiness. I lowered my eyes. This hexagram is not good. Something will probably happen tonight. The person in this coffin was Jiang Ming's grandfather. If there's no zombie transformation, it's fine. If he transforms, he'll seek out Jiang Ming first. After all, Jiang Ming is young and his granddaughter, which could increase his power. Relatives, once they transform, are no longer relatives, just walking corpses. Jiang Ming saw me lost in thought and came over to ask, "What's wrong, master?" I pondered for a moment, then decided to tell her the truth. An unusual phenomenon might occur tonight. Everyone should be mentally prepared. With that, I handed her a string of 5 Emperor's coins. Tonight, you must hold this carefully, don't let it leave your body. Even if you hear anything at home, don't go outside. Then I took out a box of cinnabar ink, splattered it along the grave, and placed a paper rooster on the grave. I bit my finger, dabbed blood onto the rooster's eyes. Rooster, rooster, don't be afraid. If you hear any movement, crow loudly. Having done everything, I checked the time. It was almost noon. The extreme yang time of day is very bad for people, especially when in this yin residence surrounded by mountains. I called everyone, telling them not to stay here and to leave quickly once finished. Then I pulled Jiang Ming into the car and drove away. We drove to the hospital where Jiang Ming was admitted. As we got out of the car, I reminded her, after sunset, don't leave your house. She acknowledged, took the string of 5 Emperor's coins I gave her, and left. I went into the internal medicine ward and gave Jiang Ming a protective jade pendant. Something might happen tonight. You must remember not to answer anyone who calls you. The most crucial factor for Grandfather Jiang's zombie transformation was the vital energy of his direct relatives. If Jiang Nian's or Jiang Ming's vital energy was taken by Grandfather Jiang's ghost, he would transform tonight. If not, it might be delayed for a few days. After giving my instructions, I left the ward, huffing and puffing on a public bicycle back home. In the middle of the night, I clearly heard a rooster crow. I silently cursed, "Not good," and quickly called Jiang Ming. The other side sounded like he had just woken up, asking me what was wrong. His voice seemed normal. I divined a hexagram, great peace. That means nothing is wrong. Then I thought about Jiang Nian's situation and divined a hexagram for her too. It also showed great peace. But I clearly heard a rooster crow, and the yin residence had been sealed by my cinnabar ink and covered by my tent, so it shouldn't have caused a zombie transformation due to moonlight. I looked up out the window, towards the location of the yin residence, and saw thick dark clouds gathering over there. Damn it, I cursed silently. How could I forget this? If someone tampered with it, someone will definitely try to destroy everything I've set up. But I never expected that person to be so powerful as to command wind and rain. I frowned. Could it be Master Xue, the rain god? Donning my Taoist robe, I brought 2 boxes of glutinous rice and a peach wood sword embedded with ancient coins. Just as I was about to leave the house, I glanced at the clock. 1 a.m. A wave of sleepiness washed over me. I hesitated for a moment, then cast a hexagram. Minor auspicious, great peace, great peace. I breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed he wouldn't zombify for now. I took off my clothes and lay back down, continuing to sleep. The world is vast, and sleep is paramount. In my dream, Yao Ryu scolded me. Do you have to divine a hexagram even to take a dump? Before I could retort, I was woken by my phone. Looking at the time, it was already 8 a.m. Jiang Nian was waiting for me at the hospital entrance to retrieve the coffin. I changed into my Taoist robe and gathered my tools, then she called again, sending me the address. Grandma is coming to pick you up. Damn it, such a slow man? Tisk asterisk, what a fiery temper. I gave her the address, and before I could say anything, she hung up. What a hurried temper, I mused. Since someone was coming to pick me up, I'd go boil an egg for breakfast. Just as the egg was dropped into the pot, my phone rang. On the other end, just 2 words, downstairs. I was about to say something, but she threw out 3 words, 600,000. All right, I surrender. Coming right now. My voice was quite fawning, but making money without losing face was acceptable. Downstairs, Jiang Nian grumbled at my slowness, then tossed me the car keys. A total of 4 cars had arrived. As per my request, 12 tall, burly men were there to carry the coffin. But recalling last night's events, my heart sank. I quickly said, "Wait a moment, I need to invite 2 assistants." Jiang Nian glanced at me and nodded. I pulled out my phone, typed a message, and sent the yin residence's address to our group chat. According to the temple's rules, when one person faces trouble, those asked for help must help. After sending the message, I got into the driver's seat and drove to the grave from yesterday. Upon arrival, the scene before me made me gasp. The tombstone was cracked, the canopy over the grave had a hole smashed in it, the ground was soft and steaming, and the cinnabar ink lines on the grave had been washed away. Only the pure yang blood talisman remained intact, still stuck to the grave, suppressing the last bit of resentment. It seems this talisman had held it back. The other person's cultivation wasn't that high. Jiang Ming saw this scene, her voice trembling slightly. Master, what? What is this? What do we do now? It's all right, I comforted her. My assistants will be here shortly. No sooner had I spoken than I felt a sharp gust of wind behind me. I turned and dodged. Thud, a rock hit the ground. If I hadn't reacted so quickly, my head might have been split open. Xue Qiao, you'd better truly have something going on or I'll flay you alive. Dian had arrived, with Yao Ru following behind her. They approached, one after the other, their tempers as fiery as ever. Seeing them, I felt much more at ease. I quickly called the 12 burly men to carry the coffin. As we removed the talisman, I distinctly felt the grave shake. Yao Ru frowned, pulling Dian back a step. She snapped her fingers, and I saw a beam of white light penetrate the grave. Sometimes I truly appreciate her pure yin nature's ability to pacify resentful spirits. Then I told the 12 men to start digging. When the coffin was fully exposed, they tied thick ropes around it, then threaded thick poles through the ropes. Shouting, 1, 2, 3, lift! The coffin remained motionless. I realized something was wrong. I glanced at Dian. She raised an eyebrow, stepped forward, and pulled a small vial of blood from her pocket, dripping it onto the coffin. I was astonished by her actions. She chuckled awkwardly. I'm not afraid of pain, am I? Last time Yao Ru pacified a vengeful spirit, I took advantage of my wound before it healed and collected some blood, just in case. Excellent. I give that move full marks. On the other side, once blood was dripped onto the coffin, it became much lighter. I took out ancient coins and divined a hexagram, 3 yin faces, great misfortune. But the coffin was already exhumed. If that's the case, we could only open it. I turned to Jiang Ming and said, Jiang Ming, your grandfather's body might have a problem. Take them and leave quickly. My assistants and I. Before I could finish, I received a slap to the head. Xue Qiao, if you call sister and me your assistants again, I'll kill you, Yao Ru said darkly. I got goosebumps and immediately corrected myself. My junior sisters and I will take care of this. Jiang Ming nodded, told me to be careful, then told the 12 men to place the coffin on the open ground nearby, and without looking back, she left. I'll open the coffin. Yao Ru, you stand behind me. Dian is already hiding behind a tree, scared stiff. You two go ahead and open it. I can't bear to watch. Excellent. Her powerful yet timid nature had emerged again. Yao Ru rolled her eyes. Hurry up, I have an exam tonight. I took out my peachwood sword, inserted it into the gap of the coffin lid, went around the coffin once, cutting the yellow sealing ropes, then forcefully wedged the peachwood sword into the gap and pried it open. The coffin opened, and a puff of black smoke rose. I held the peachwood sword, performed a sealing hand gesture with both hands, then summoned the wind to disperse the black smoke. Yao Ru and I stepped forward to examine the body. As expected, it had zombified. Its fingernails and hair had grown long, and it even had a pair of frightening fangs. Yao Ru stared at it thoughtfully for a moment, then stepped forward and with her hand, broke off one of the newly grown fangs. What are you doing? She put the fang away. A zombie's fangs, before complete transformation, can be ground into powder to ward off evil. On the other side, Dian was utterly terrified. Are you two done yet? I want to leave, I sighed. This corpse hasn't fully turned into a zombie yet. To deal with it, we can only bring it back to the temple for a transcendence ritual, then rebury it. Just as I was about to pull out my phone to inform my master, a mist rose, accompanied by a faint scent of incense. Yao Ru reacted very quickly. She rushed to Dian side, grabbed her hand, pulled her towards the open ground in front, and shouted, Damn it, there's a ghost, don't stand under the tree. Dian was pulled abruptly. She shrieked in fear, Ah, ghost, get away. Yao Ru covered her mouth. Dian choked, tears welling up in her eyes, looking truly pitiful. I stood there watching, couldn't help but sigh in admiration. No wonder she used to be a celebrity, she still has a cert elegance. Yao Ru glared at me. What time is it, and you're still in the mood to admire Dian? I forced a laugh. Who doesn't like to admire a beautiful woman? The eerie sound of ghost funeral trumpets echoed in our ears, starting from both ends of the forest. On one side, white smoke rose, on the other, red smoke. The three of us stood back to back. Dian's legs turned to jelly and she collapsed. Sister, you're my senior sister. You're the strongest among us. Don't fall apart at such a crucial moment. Yao Ru paused. Do I really have to rely on this novice Xue Qiao to catch ghosts? Being called a novice to my face, I was a bit indignant. Yao Ryuo shot me a glance. Then you go, I wilted. I'm a novice. Diane Mu, at this point, had regained her voice. She trembled as she spoke. Don't argue anymore. We've probably encountered the red and white twin fiends. The funeral trumpets grew closer and closer. My head peered deep into the forest. Several ghostly figures were carrying coffins, approaching from the other side. Yao Ryuk said, I see the ghost bride's sedan chair. Diane Mu in the middle struggled to hold herself up. She pulled out her peachwood sword, bit her finger, and smeared blood on it. I, family name from the northern Taoist lineage with no descendants behind me, belonging to this clan, now face the red and white twin fiends. I humbly request my master and ancestors to manifest and assist me. As soon as she finished speaking, the peachwood sword immediately emitted a golden light. Diane Mu, holding it, truly looked like a Taoist immortal. Yao Ryu was surprised. No way, we don't even know how many years of cultivation the red and white twin fiends have, and you're already going all out. Diane Mu timidly replied, This way, I feel safer. Yao Ryu fell silent, clearly helpless with her senior sister. I also silently drew my peachwood sword. Yao Ryuo, having no other choice, also drew hers. I am Yao Ryuo, born with a yin-dominant fate. I specially invite the Ghost King's divine scepter to assist me. Is this just to bully me for not having a special move? Before I could finish complaining, the red and white fiends from both sides grew closer and closer, finally surrounding us. Just as I was about to act, the twin fiends suddenly began to merge, swirling around us, moving faster and faster. I felt a dizzy spell and my vision suddenly went dark. I fell into a sedan chair. I wanted to escape, but I was held down by several burly men. I looked at the clothes on my body in astonishment. It was a wedding dress. The auspicious hour had arrived for the bowing ceremony. A piercing sound echoed in my ears. I looked up in surprise, only to be dragged out of the sedan chair. They held my shoulders, forcibly pulling me to bow to heaven and earth. I understood. I had entered the ghost bride's memory. I had become her. They held me in a rooster, forcing me to bow to heaven and earth. It was then that I noticed something was wrong. It was clearly a wedding, yet everything around was white. Even the double happiness character was white. There were no smiles on anyone's faces. They all looked grim, coldly watching everything. First bow to heaven and earth. This sound was like a death knell, echoing in my ears little by little. Second bow to the ancestral hall. Two old people sat high up, their cloudy eyes staring fixedly at me. They smiled eerily. Husband and wife bow to each other. I refused to bend, but I was held tightly by the shoulders and forced down. I heard a crack. Both my shoulders dislocated. The intense pain left me no time to think, and I let out a terrible scream. The matchmaker beside me frowned. Into the bridal chamber. I thought everything was finally over, but to my surprise, the matchmaker stepped forward, pinched my face, and said, "Seal the 7 orifices." I widened my eyes, desperately shaking my head. No, but I was held tightly again. They stuffed silver fragments and yellow talismans into my mouth. I shook my head, trying to avoid it, but many hands held my head, making me unable to move. The matchmaker then took a needle and thread and began sewing my mouth shut. I felt the coarse hemp thread piercing through my skin, fresh blood dripping down my chin to the ground. The horrible pain made me struggle desperately, but being in the bride's body, my strength was too small and I couldn't break free. Then 2 more people came. They took out a pair of silver nails. Someone held my head tightly, hammering the silver nails into my ears. I only felt a ringing sound, followed by unbearable pain. Helpless tears rolled down. I was held tightly, unable to move. A buzzing sound appeared in my ears. I originally thought it would end like this, but then I saw them holding even larger silver nails, slowly approaching my eyes. I instinctively squeezed my eyes shut, but an unimaginable pain erupted, and then everything plunged into darkness. I was numb with pain. I couldn't see, couldn't hear, couldn't speak anymore. Surely it could end now, right? I felt someone carrying me into a coffin. The pain returned from my limbs as long nails pierced through my bones, nailing me tightly to the coffin planks. In agony, I noticed someone placing a corpse beside me. The strong stench of decay filled my nasal cavity. I wanted to vomit, but my mouth was sewn shut. Tears mixed with blood flowed down. Something was shoved into my nostrils. The pain made me clench my fists. I couldn't breathe anymore. Despair and fear spread through my heart. I was a man who had lived for 23 years, exposed to ghosts and demons since childhood, and had never felt such fear and despair. I never expected to experience it today in another person's body. If a man like me felt this way, how much more so the owner of this body, a young girl, whose 7 orifices had been sealed and who was locked in a coffin. The final ritual was complete. She died in despair and agony. I woke up in great pain. Diane Mu and Yao Ryu beside me seemed to be experiencing some kind of pain as well. Their brows were furrowed, wanting to cry but unable to. The 3 of us leaned against Grandfather Jiang's tombstone. I was still processing what I had just experienced when I heard Diane Mu and Yao Ryu let out a miserable shriek. They had woken up. I asked, "Did you too experience the ghost bride's memory?" Yao Ryu nodded grimly. Diane Mu seemed not fully lucid yet. The immense fear had made her a little slow. It was hard for her. With her physique, she still had to go through these things with me. After a while, she regained her composure. "I'm never coming here again. I'd rather go wash Master's feet." A few sentences perfectly expressed her inner feelings. Just then, a strange sound came from the grave pit behind us. We looked back and saw a crying ghost in red standing on the tombstone. "Ghost!" Diane Mu shrieked and fell back onto the ground. I raised my peach wood sword, shielding them both. It was only then that I noticed she was the ghost bride from the illusion. Her 7 orifices, which were sealed, now had the silver pieces covering her nose fall off. No wonder she could come out. She didn't move, just hovered above the grave. Although her eyes were nailed shut, I could still feel her staring at me. We didn't interfere with each other, just stared for a long time. No one dared to step forward. I knew she was wary of Yao Ryu and Diane Mu. Yao Ryu stood aside, looking at her for a long time. Finally, she acted. She stepped forward, picked up a shovel that had fallen to the ground, jumped into the grave pit, and continued digging. The crying ghost hovered on the tombstone, seemingly nodding. Seeing this, I also quickly grabbed a shovel and dug with her. Diane Mu huddled to one side, silent, likely scared stiff. I don't know how long we dug, but we finally hit another coffin buried underground. I frowned. It seems this is the reason Grandfather Jiang turned into a zombie. A coffin buried on top of another coffin, and it was a resentful corpse from a ghost marriage. Grandfather Jiang, exposed to this resentful energy for so long, it would be strange if he didn't zombify. But logically, these yin-yang fengshui masters shouldn't be ignorant of these things. How could they let Jiang Ming bury his father here? Furthermore, Jiang Ming had been prosperous for several years. What exactly happened? I looked at the coffin. A suppressing talisman appeared before my eyes. I understood. That yin-yang master had suppressed the resentful energy within, which is why Jiang Ming prospered for several years. But his cultivation was insufficient, so after a few years, the resentful energy would still break through the suppressing talisman. Yao Ryu tore off the suppressing talisman, raised the shovel in her hand, and said, "Smash it!" Before I could react, she raised the shovel and smashed it into the coffin. In an instant, a large hole was created in the coffin. Ah, so that's how it is. Truly, my family has a grown daughter whose strength can move mountains and overturn rivers. This was a double coffin, just one hole wasn't logical. I also raised my shovel, aimed at the coffin, and struck once. The coffin cracked. I was a bit embarrassed, intending to strike again, but Yao Ryu said in a low voice, "Move aside." I felt my masculine pride questioned. She shot me a sideways glance. "I'll do it myself." "Yes, I humbly yield the path to you." She snorted coldly, raised her shovel again, and with one strike, the coffin was completely shattered. This kind of ghost marriage coffin, to prevent the bride from escaping, is sealed tightly with nails all around. It definitely can't be opened, so this is the only way. She finished explaining, then paused, looked up at the crying ghost. "Sorry about that. We'll get you a new one later." The shattered coffin revealed the skeletonized remains inside. Yao Ryu reached in and removed the silver nails, silver fragments, and golden talismans from the positions of the 6 orifices and mouth. I pulled out the silver nails driven into the bones. After all the silver nails were removed, the red-clothed crying ghost let out a mournful cry. She shed her vengeful ghost appearance, transforming back into her original form, a very delicate girl. She opened her mouth. Just as she uttered one word, Diane Mu, who was above, trembled and shrieked, "You too, wait a moment before talking. He's about to zombify." Her voice was filled with despair. "Oh no, I forgot about Grandfather Jiang." I inwardly cried out, "Bad news." I quickly scrambled out of the grave pit, only to see Grandfather Jiang already standing up from his grave. The bride's mournful cry earlier had caused Grandfather Jiang, who was already on the verge of zombifying due to her resentment, to completely transform into a zombie. However, because his fangs had already been broken off by Yao Ryu, he looked particularly comical. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? Diane Mu rushed to Yao Ryu, who had just climbed out of the pit. Yao Ryu, I'm so scared. He doesn't have teeth, so he won't bite people, right? She pinched Yao Ryu's arm. Yao Ryu sighed. Yes, but could you please stop pinching me? You're killing me. Diane Mu released her grip, her legs still trembling. She picked up her peachwood sword from the ground and pointed it at Grandfather Jiang. Yao Ryu chuckled softly. Don't be afraid, I'll protect you. Diane Mu looked at her with gratitude. The very next second, thwack, Grandfather Jiang let out a sound and swiftly lunged towards the two of them. Yao Ryu deftly dodged to the side, leaving Grandfather Jiang directly facing Diane Mu. Diane Mu's eyes widened, astonished by Yao Ryu's actions. Damn it, Yao Ryu, weren't you the one who said that? Yao Ryu was still as cunning as ever. At this moment, Grandfather Jiang was right in front of her. Diane Mu raised her peachwood sword, closed her eyes, and without thinking, brought it down on Grandfather Jiang's head. Grandfather Jiang was immediately split in half and fell to the ground. Truly worthy of a pure yang constitution, even a zombie, reputed to be immune to blades, could be cleaved in two. But now was not the time for such exclamations. I sighed, looking at the two halves of the corpse on the ground and the black fluid seeping out, feeling a bit helpless. I had thought Diane Mu was very strong, but the worst outcome I had imagined was her merely decapitating him, not splitting his entire body in two. After a few seconds of pondering, I pulled out my phone and dialed a number. Hello, Mr. Jiang. If I told you your father was originally two halves, would you believe me? The other end was silent for a few seconds, then said, Tell me. Half an hour later, Jiang Ming arrived at the scene with several burly men. He saw his father's body, split in two, lying to one side. The tombstone had a large crack and the grave was dug up. His voice held anger, but it was suppressed. Master, I specifically injected pain medication to come here, just to understand what happened. Can you explain? I stepped forward, looking at him sincerely. Your father's hair grew long. He looked at me with a troubled expression. Yao Ryu couldn't stand it anymore. She stepped forward. Your father completely zombified, turned into a zombie. There was no other way but to chop him. She said it as if she were chopping meat. This meat is bad, there's no other way but to cut it up. Jiang Ming didn't believe her. Yao Ryu pointed at the body on the ground. See for yourself, look at his fingernails. Jiang Ming saw she was so insistent, so he bent down to get a closer look. Suddenly, the other half of the corpse moved, its hand directly grabbing Jiang Ming's neck. Yao Ryu quickly drew her peachwood sword and chopped down, severing the hand. Then she put a talisman on the severed hand, forcing it to let go. Believe me now? She asked. Jiang Ming was choked to the point of near suffocation. He quickly nodded, then, still terrified, asked me, Master, now what do we do? I glanced at the corpse and said, Only cremation. The other side was about to say something else, but Yao Ryu had already held up the severed hand. He flinched, reluctantly agreed, and turned to instruct the men to put the body back in the coffin, but no one dared to step forward. Seeing this, Diane Mu placed a talisman from her hand onto the corpse, then sweetly smiled at the men. It'll be fine if you put a talisman on it, so could you please help us? The men, seeing this, chuckled awkwardly, then quickly said, No problem, it's a small matter. Finally, they stepped forward to help. Indeed, before beauty, everything else is ephemeral. After they had finished cleaning up and left, Jiang Ming kept his word and transferred 600,000 yuan to me. I raised an eyebrow. I could return to the temple now, but there seemed to be one more thing. I looked up at the ghost bride who was chatting with Yao Ryu and Diane Mu and asked, Hey, are you planning to reincarnate? Diane Mu scolded me. How rude, she has a name, it's Zhao Dai. I was speechless. What kind of strange name is that? Yao Ryu nodded. Exactly, what kind of strange name is that? Diane Mu looked bewildered. Huh. After Yao Ryu explained, she said, Damn it, what kind of strange name is that? Zhao Dai lowered her head. I walked over and asked her, So, are you going to enter the cycle of reincarnation? She shook her head. Then you can only become a house ghost. I looked at Diane Mu. How about you take her in as a house ghost? The latter shrank back. My guts are tiny. Woke up in the middle of the night to use the restroom and saw her, I'd probably faint. I looked towards Yao Ryu. She shook her head. No, I already have one. That one is very jealous. I can't take another. I sighed. I'd love to take her in, but my fate is… Zhao Dai stepped forward. It's okay, I don't mind. I looked at her in surprise. Could she have seen that I have a 7 killings fate? She smiled and nodded at me. Then from now on, you are my master. I waved my hand. No, 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 don't call me master, just call me Xue Qiao, she acknowledged. I thought of something and said, you should change your name, take my surname, let's call you Xue Yao. Her appearance was beautiful, she was in the prime of her youth, and her personality was gentle. She was truly a charming and refined lady. She nodded. Then what about my ghost marriage contract? Yao Ryu chuckled. No need to worry. Since you're already a family ghost and were forced into it, that contract isn't valid. My sharp eyes saw her hide her hand behind her back, surreptitiously burning a yin contract talisman. It seems having a good relationship with the Ghost King is also a good thing, I smiled. Xue Yao finally breathed a sigh of relief. I looked at the coffin we had dug up and shattered, then piled the earth back on. It seemed Jiang Ming would have to find another place to bury his old father. After all, there had to be a proper ending. After Jiang Ming's father found another place to be laid to rest, the dark aura between his eyebrows finally dissipated. I returned to the temple with 600,000 yuan and Xue Yao. On the way, she asked me, why do you keep avoiding your junior sisters and your master? I was startled and chuckled. Do I? She thought seriously for a moment. You do. I thought your relationship was very good, but ever since that time, you haven't contacted each other. They called you to eat and you didn't go. I felt a bit helpless. I have a 7 killings fate. I harm my father, my mother, my relatives, my friends. Of course, I have to stay away from them. Xue Yao looked thoughtful. But I think they don't mind. That's because I haven't told them, but I know myself, so it's still better to keep a distance. It's for their own good too. I truly, truly don't want to lose any more loved ones. But Xue Yao chuckled softly. Do you think their abilities are so strong, yet they don't know you have a 7 killings fate? I sighed. Forget it, let it be. I think this is fine. She pouted, then burrowed into the small gourd I wore. You worry so much, it'll hurt their feelings. I pretended not to hear, pushed open the temple door, as usual, transferred half the money, then went to eat. My master stood at the door, watching me transfer money. Yao Ryu and Dian Mu were already waiting for me at the dining table. Little Zuzai, come here, Dian Mu called me, only to have mistress tap her head. Not so informal, call him senior brother. She stuck out her tongue at me. Yao Ryu winked at me, showing me my bowl. Inside was a duck wing, my favorite dish as a child. She mouthed to me, come quickly, Dian Mu and I specially saved it for you. I smiled and responded, quickly washing my hands and sitting down to eat. Yao Ryu, her mouth full of meat, said indistinctly, if you don't come when I call you out to play next time, I'll chop you up. Dian Mu nodded. This Xue Qiao, what a pain. I even had to personally call him and he still refused me. She glanced at me. Please, I earn millions a minute. I laughed. Next time, definitely next time. Senior brother, Yao Ryu suddenly whispered. Actually, Dian Mu and I have never been afraid of being harmed by your fate. After all, no one's bazi is stronger than ours. I paused slightly. How did she know? I looked towards the gourd, understood, and suddenly felt a prickling in my nose. Perhaps the food was too spicy. Okay. When she heard me say that word, she patted me on the head. After dinner, let's go stargazing, the three of us. It's been so long. I clutched my head and nodded miserably. Dian Mu slowly wiped her mouth, also assenting. I sighed with emotion. It's truly most comfortable at home, although I often get my head patted by these two. Yao Ryu also had a house ghost named Jiang Rao. At this moment, she was arguing with Xue Yao. My little Taoist priest is the best, she took me in. Xue Qiao is the best, he broke my seal. My little Taoist priest is the best, she pushed me into the demon's sealing mirror to protect me. Xue Qiao is the best, he gave me a name. Jiang Rao looked stunned. Xue Yao smiled happily. Just by looking, I can tell you're a family ghost who wasn't given a name. HMPH, I'm a family ghost who asterisk was given a name. Jiang Rao angrily scoffed. So what? My little Taoist priest is powerful. Xue Yao stared at me for a moment, then turned to shout at Jiang Rao. So what? My Xue Qiao dares to watch videos of beautiful girls alone until midnight. Jiang Rao, not to be outdone, retorted. My little Taoist priest dared to take an exam without studying, and even cast spells right in the exam room. Yao Ryu, Xue Yao, Jiang Rao. Yao Ryu and I both said in unison, you too, be quiet. Dian Mu beside us burst out laughing. Ha 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 ha, if you two keep arguing, you'll even reveal the color of Xue Qiao's and Yao Ryu's underwear. My master, hearing our achievements from behind, shook his head. Truly, a misfortune for the family. I wanted to cry but couldn't shed any tears. What a mess.